Good morning. Hope you're doing well. If you didn't watch yesterday's, I had the red shirt on and had 0 here. That might be like my most important video. I talked about suicide prevention and 988's the suicide hotline. So make sure you watch that reel or video. So today we're talking about page 104 is courage isn't crappy. Why Would It Crap Happens Philosophy is the book I wrote where I quote over 500 people. The idea started in the 1990s, late 1990s, and worked on different times throughout the years, but now I'm doing videos on it. It's over 500 pages, but I'm up to 104, so we're 20% done or so, which is progress. Tomorrow I'm meeting with the media center to see if we can put the pages next to these videos. And I do dishes while doing it because I don't have time there's just not enough time in the day. I don't have plans till starting at 10. I'm a mental health therapist as well. And I work through a group practice, and I'm starting my own practice through Headway at the mall, which I hope works out fine, at the Bridge Healing Center at the Town Mall of Westminster, because I'll also have an art studio that's almost done. Which will be a community art space. But why am I talking about courage isn't crappy? Because dealing with your crap takes courage. Oh my gosh. It takes humility and courage to deal with your own problems, right? So if you're not living your best life, trying to change that or delve into like repressed issues or courage, right? So we have a lot of quotes on why courage is not crappy. Feel free. So I hope this video could end up being like paused maybe. So like if it was like a class discussion, why is courage not crappy? Does it take courage to deal with like looking inward, right? And also like making life changes outward or trying to help somebody. Does it take courage? That could be like a discussion. So Mary Ann Radmacher said courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is a little voice at the end of the day that says, I'll try again tomorrow. Simon Oliver Sinek, 1973, I think he's still around. To overcome our challenges, all that is required is the courage to ask for help. Ooh, I like that. So the courage to ask for help, huge. And then to ask for help again because the first help wasn't enough, and again to get the help you need, your own healing journey, takes courage. A lot of people, I think, try, and I share my own story often, but I try to pray away depression. I needed professional help, things like that. Some churches actually think they can pray it away, and sometimes prayer works. But if it isn't enough, getting that extra help is huge. Somebody in our circle, just texted, which is Gravy, I'm glad you're doing okay. You slept well. It popped up. So there's going to be like side notes sometimes. Lays Brown, born in 1945, said, ask for help, not because you are weak, but because you want to remain strong. Napoleon Bonaparte, from 1769 to 1821, courage isn't having the strength to go on. It is going on when you don't have the strength. When I've shared on stage, some of the days I'm most proud of is when I was suicidal and didn't act on it. And I've shared I've gone to the hospital when I thought I was because a neighbor passed, and my dad said that's the hardest thing that a parent can go through. So I'm very pro talking about wellness before there's a neighbor or somebody in your inner circle that passes. So you can be like, my kids know they can live at home forever. I just, they're still young, but I'm like, they don't need to be successful in worldly terms. They just need to be alive and hopefully peaceful and contributing to society. If my daughter wants to work at like a pet store and just be checkout, it's fine. No, What a peaceful life, right? So Napoleon said, courage isn't always having the strength to go on. It is going on when you don't have the strength. Kevin Hines, born 1981. If you haven't heard of him, he does like his whole like life mission is suicide prevention. He like jumped off a bridge for had a suicide attempt, and like as soon as he like leaped, he said he immediately regretted it. And then he lived, and he was one of the few people that did live after this. But it's okay to not to be okay. It's not okay to. It's okay not to be okay. It's not okay not to ask someone to back you up. Pope, gosh, I need to learn. Okay, so Pope Leo, who lived 1810 to 1903, he's a Catholic Pope. He was the 256th Catholic Pope, said, "Nothing emboldens the wicked so greatly as the lack of courage on the part of the good." And then on the bottom of the page, 988 is the suicide hotline in the U.S. Pema Chodron, born 1936, I think still alive. So I like found quotes, threw them on like Wikipedia and did that, but I've been writing it for years, so I don't really know. I don't keep track of everybody, so apologies if I'm wrong. But Pema Chodron said, "The most fundamental aggression to ourselves, the most fundamental harm we can do to ourselves is to remain ignorant by not having the courage and the respect to look at ourselves honestly and gently." As a therapist, like, self-compassion is huge, and recognizing you did the best you can with the skills you had in the past. But we can still change, you know? So that's DBT's, the accepting two opposing things. Like, I can accept who I was while also working to grow. Like, Sir Winston Spencer Churchill, born 1874, passed 1965. "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." Irene Gut-Optic, born 1922, passed 2003, author of In My Hands, Memories of a Holocaust Rescuer. Right, courage is a whisper from above. Listen with your heart, you will know what to do and how and when. Robin Roberts, born 1960, said, "It takes courage to believe that the best is yet to come." Carl Gustav Jung, which if you're in psychology at all, you might know who that is. 1875, past 1961. "Do not compare, do not measure. No other way is like yours. All other ways deceive and tempt you." Oh, because the next page is on comparison, I think. I wanted to read the Irene Gut-Optic one. Author of In My Hands, Memories of a Holocaust Rescuer. "Courage is a whisper from above. When you listen with your heart, you will know what to do, how and when." Kind of, I like that, but when I'm going to add to it that as somebody who's like an innovative mind personally, I often like can see like multiple steps. I'm like, oh, if we could do this here, we could do this, this, and this, and this, and it overwhelms people. And sometimes I'm just kind of like, hey, can we make art and like use it as suicide prevention? And I'm not like, hey, like I could see this being like a huge outreach, this, and this. You know, I think I may have, but sometimes people are like, no, and I'm like, man, like it's really upsetting because it's like I had that voice, I had that vision, and it was like shut down. So I would say keep going. The amount of churches, nonprofit center, like places I even approached to do an art studio, like a community art space, and being like, the foundation is like suicide prevention. It's making courage to the behavioral health, people that are lonely. It's building community in a space of like, we're doing it together. It makes a person feel good that they're connected to others. You know, the amount of shutdowns and people saying no, huge. Like I reached out, I messaged, I talked to countless people because I'm like, I don't want to fund it. If I did not have kids, I would be fine being broke, but like I want to make sure I take care of my kids and let them do the activities they want. And by chance in April, we did the Carroll County Peep Show, which is made out of like the little peep Easter bunnies, like the bunnies and chicks. Like, it's not, my daughter wanted to do it this year. I wasn't going to do it, but she wanted to. I was like, okay, we'll do it. And then she wanted to buy a necklace, so we asked afterwards. And it was cute. And we buy presents throughout the year for birthdays and Christmas because I don't like procrastinating. And we ended up meeting Anne Marie at the bridge when we were paying for it. And I told her, I was like, I talked to my boss, and she said that we have a therapist that focuses mainly on children. She didn't want a playhouse. I was like, shoot, what am I going to do with my huge Peep display playhouse? It's not coming home. Like, so I told Anne Marie at the bridge, I was like, you know, I write books, like maybe I could like have a setup. And she's like, sure. So that happened, and then I'm like, I kind of want to do like an art studio space. She's like, hey, let me show you a space we have in the back. And I was like, I also want to do like therapy in the same space as my art therapy room. So like if I do have a kid client, we can use it. She's like, oh, we have this like huge room that's like blocked off you could use for therapy, and here's a space for that. And I'm like, she's like this hippie, like, I don't know if she identifies with any, like, you know, she's not like typical, like, it's really cool, but we're doing it. And so my small voice wasn't like, it did not lead me to her. It was just like by chance, or the universe, or God, or whatever your belief is. But sometimes that small voice on what you can do, sometimes the door ends up blocked, but don't give up. I'm ready to change the page. That's why I'm telling a story, because I can rinse and, yeah. So we're on 105, and we're going to 106. So this is the crappy comparing is 106, and the next page is vulnerability is not crappy. So crappy comparing, normalize the struggle. Know it's okay to talk about feelings, to not be okay to ask for help, to break down, to cry, to need support, to be vulnerable, to go to therapy. Angel Chernoff, and I have a little picture of grass in here, says, if the grass looks greener on the other side, stop staring, stop comparing, stop complaining, and start watering the grass you are standing on. I think that's a huge one of like embracing the life and the people you have and what you do have now. Because often you can create such a beautiful life with what you have. And also when you're comparing to others, like, they may look like they have this, this, and this, and like social media is not an accurate like depiction of a lot of people. There's people that go on these huge vacation trips that get divorced right after. Like, their smile is in the photos, but, you know, so Theodore Roosevelt, who's our 26th U.S. president, lived 1858, 1919, said, comparison is a thief of joy. Max Ehrmann, 1872 to 1945, said, if you compare yourself to others, you may become vain and bitter. For always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. And I just feel like even when you're looking at other people, you just do not know what is going on. And we talk about, you know, suicide prevention is like the reason for all this, and it doesn't discriminate against classes. You know, you see famous people that have everything pass away, you know, like, you just can't compare. So the next page is 107, and vulnerability is not crappy. Angelina Jolie, born 1975, is quoted saying, without pain, there would be no suffering. Without suffering, we would never learn from our mistakes. To make it right, pain and suffering is the key to all windows. Without it, there is no way of life. Nelson Mandela, our human compassion binds us the one to the other, not in pity or patronizingly, but as human beings who have learned how to turn our common suffering into hope for the future. Scott Peck in The Different Drum, Community and Peace on page 70 said, wrote, there is pain in our wounds, but even more important is the love that arises among us when we share both ways, our woundedness Still, we cannot deny the reality that this sharing requires a risk in our culture. It takes courage. He didn't write that, but the risk of violating the norm of pretending invulnerability. So I'd say it takes courage to like be vulnerable with somebody else, and not everybody's trustworthy. So it's like discerning who's not gonna, you know, use what you share against you, because there are emotionally immature individuals in this world. I don't think there's any perfect individuals, but there's definitely an array of emotional immaturity where some people are like hurtful and crappy, which we'll get into. Jennifer Ashton, MD, in Life After Suicide, shared that Dr. Simmering told her regarding her ex-husband, one reason Rob killed himself is because he was never comfortable with facing his own vulnerability. So I think like it takes courage to be vulnerable and share what's going on. I shared a post on Facebook today about also having hope. So I think that's, and how every time you have hope or gratitude, it starts shifting the pathways in your brain to see more hopeful and grateful things instead of like the negative. So each time you're like working your brain muscles, which is really like a big deal, right? Because we don't want to like each time you go negative and pessimistic, it shifts your brain that way. So you can shift it like to be negative or to be positive, and it can be a choice, because even like each time you do it, it pushes those neurons to go positive or negative, and you get to choose. You can't control CBT is like you can control your thoughts. I mean, you really can't control all your thoughts. A lot of people have intrusive thoughts at times. I do believe you can try to combat negative thoughts and try to find positives and do gratitude list or just practices. So page 108, self-hatred is crappy. I'm hoping you can still hear me over the water. I'm rinsing my dirty dishes, my clean dishes, and I'm rinsing. Maybe I won't put it on water. So, okay. I have a quote, self-hatred is not an intrinsic part of the human mind. What does that mean? Self-hatred. We live in a culture where people hurt themselves, hurt their body, practice no positive coping skills, like very destructive behaviors. Their inputs can be negative, like they make poor choices. So this was in The Art of Happiness on page 285. So it's a good book if you ever felt like reading. So during Cutler's interview with the Dalai Lama in The Art of Happiness, page 285, he questioned the Dalai Lama about self-hatred. The Dalai Lama responded that he lacked familiarity with the existence of self-hatred. It is virtually unheard of in an entire culture, specifically the Tibetan culture. Thus, one could conclude that culture creates self-hatred. I think it's all italicized. I didn't do a good job quoting exactly. I guess I can go grab the book. I don't think I lost it in my... I had some moves where some books didn't make it a decade ago about. But, so some people believe the culture creates self-hatred. I don't disagree with that. When somebody does die by suicide, I don't blame the family at all. I do think our culture, I mean, we have I could edit this and look like 20 years younger, and we just have this culture of we're never good enough, commercials, everything, it's very materialistic, and people use psychology against us to be you're not good enough, you need to buy this, you're not, where I do think there's cultures that are much more happy with what they have and grateful and live peaceful lives and don't compare. And so self-hatred, the Dalai Lama said it's not intrinsic, it's not, the culture can push it. And there is a lot of theories that back it that are, yeah. So there's an unknown author. If you feel as if you don't fit into this world, it's because you were here to create a better one, which I like too. Because I think there are a lot of people in therapy and people I've just met, they feel like they don't fit here, right? And I've shared, like, sometimes reading books, like, you feel connected to different philosophers or different people throughout time. And I've been told I'm an old soul, and often I get along really well with people over, like, 70. All ages, but, like, them I'm like, and that's been forever, so I don't know if there's a shift. I don't know. But, I do like the idea if you don't fit in, you're here to create a better world, too. C.S. Lewis said, if we find ourselves with a desire that nothing in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that we were made for another world. So some people also, like, have a faith community. Oh, I have FYI, C.S. Lewis likely means to live your life with making a difference, not remotely promoting a death of despair, but opposite of having hope and living intentionally. So cognitive distortions are, like, no joke. So there are people that have hallucinations, delusions, hear voices, see things, hear things that aren't real, have thoughts that are just awful. And one of the research things is if you know somebody that died by suicide, it increases your risk of suicide. And so even when somebody passes, I'm very hesitant to even be like, oh, they're at peace, everything's fine. I'm like, I don't know what to say, but I don't like to say that because I feel like if somebody is suffering, they're like, oh, I can be at peace if I just, you know. So I'm very like, no, like you're here for a reason and you can do the work to have peace. Like you can do it in this lifetime. So page 109 is Hope Matters. And this is a Barack Obama quote. I think it's all him. Hope is not blind optimism. It's not ignoring the enormity of the task ahead or the roadblocks that stand in our path. It's not sitting on the sidelines or shirking from a fight. Hope is that thing inside us that insists, despite all evidence to the contrary, that something better awaits us if we have the courage to reach for it, and to work for it, and to fight for it. Hope is the belief that destiny would not be written for us, but by us. By the men and women who are not content to settle for the world as it is, who have the courage to remake the world as it should be. What a great quote, right? So, I feel like that should be, like, if you just, like, did a reel of, like, his quote. He was the 44th president of the U.S., born 1961. If you just read his quote, I'm sure it may have been in a speech where you could find it, but the idea that, like, the future's written by us, that's why I like saying, like, people's, like, I add some, it's not everywhere in the book, but if I included their years on Earth, I like to, like, say it, because I'm like, we're, all of us alive in 2026, we're all here at the same time, and we can, like, rewrite history. Like, we could become the culture of hope and healing, and, like, have a whole, like, renaissance, like, restoration of, like, coming together and being like, let's end world hunger. Like, we could do it. And, like, you know, if no one says it and says, oh, it's all a hopeless cause, the youth aren't going to be inspired. We need to inspire you, because maybe I won't do it, but maybe my kids would do it, or maybe your kids would do it, or maybe we will do it. I was high school class of 2000, and we just heard so often, we're the first generation to be adults and high school graduates in the new millennial, and this and that, and, you know, it kind of builds your ego up a little bit, like, we're the new leaders. I was like, so why don't we just lead and, like, give hope and, like, you know, we can totally change the culture. We can remake the world. I 100% believe that. Yeah, being kind is a huge part of it, but, like, that little whisper of, like, hey, maybe you can help here. All that might just be, like, how it's supposed to be, and everyone can help but pitch in a different way. And caregivers, like, I know a lot of caregivers, and I'm like, them just caring and just having peace within is huge. I'm like, there's a lot of, like, roles that seem, like, small, but, like, Like, I have a friend who has a child that's special needs, and she was a nurse and head of this and that, and, you know, huge up, and she's like a full-time caregiver, and that matters. Like, what she's doing now with just like everyone she connects with her son, it's like she's still making a huge difference, you know. And those are like I feel like the silent heroes, if there is like some reward in the next life, like the caregivers are going to be like that do it with like patience and peace and sometimes humor. Like, they're gonna like have like the best like thrown, like the people that kind of have it, like, I don't know, get a break. It's caregivers don't get a break. Stay-at-home moms don't get a break, you know. People that are caring for special needs or an elderly partner don't get a break. You know, I feel like they're gonna hopefully get the best rewards if you know, I'm proud of them. But so page 110 is crappy listening skills. This is a huge one. So Stephen Covey from 1932 to 2012 said, "The biggest communication problem is we do not listen to understand." Pema Chodron said, "The truth you believe and cling to makes you unavailable to hear anything new." Alfred, and she was born 1936, Alfred Brendel, born 1931, said the word listen contains the same letters as the word silent. Henry David Thoreau, "It takes two to speak the truth, one to speak and another to hear." And Henry David Thoreau is 1817 to 1862, and he's like somebody I actually really love reading and learning about when I was in, I think, middle school. Diogenes, born around 400 BC to 320 BC. We have 2 ears. This is attributed. I have no idea how they track quotes that old, but we have 2 ears and 1 tongue. We would listen more and talk less. It's weird that I'm doing these reels and reading the book because I'm actually more of a listener. But this matters, and I don't feel like becoming a professor. I'd rather just share what I know. And I really love being a therapist and listening and helping, like, with that. But, yeah. I feel like right now I'm just talking. People can comment and I can respond. But Stephen Aitchison, every single one of us has a potential. I have a remember ... So he said every single one of us has a potential to change someone's life by just taking the time to listen to them. Colleen Sheehy, "It's impossible to resolve conflict with disrespectful people because they communicate with their ego." Rachel Naomi Riemann, PhD, born 1938. "The most basic and powerful way to connect to another person is to listen. Just listen. Perhaps the most important thing we ever give each other is our attention." And then I have crap-filled communication. Should really use these more in therapy when I do call this therapy. Because I was like, let's listen. I have like a video on like active listening where you paraphrase. But yeah, this page, it might just be like, hey, let's work on listening skills. And what does this mean? And then I have, so the next page is 111, crap-filled communication. Between what I think and what I say. Oh, this is Francois Garrigon. Between what I want to say, what I believe I'm saying, what I say, what you want to hear, what you believe you understood, and what you understood, there are at least 9 possibilities for misunderstanding. Language-filled miscommunication. 1. Multiple meanings of the same word in English. 2. So these are just kind of things I've noticed. 2. Differing meanings between online Urban Dictionary versus physical dictionary. 3. Accurate translations between languages are not always possible. I've known people that English is the 3rd language, and somebody described like Arabic has like 9 different meanings of the word love. Like they have like brotherly love, family, like the word love in the English language is just so like watered down, and oh, I love your hair. It's just hair. It's gonna, you know, like it's not, I love you, I care about you, love is patient, love is kind, like I'm gonna practice all these things. So love is just really like dimmed down in the human language, and it's such a huge misinterpretation thing too, because some people are like, I don't want to say I love you till I really know I can make like a lifelong commitment of loving you and like taking care of you and providing and doing all these things of love, like, you know. And other people are like, why can't you just say it? Like it's like a compliment. And you're like, and some people it's deeper. So it's like love is like, so like sometimes one word can have so many different meanings, where trying to get to understand what the other person's interpretation of a word is like, you don't even know you should do that, and you can. Talking in person, so seeing body language versus a text message or email, there can be more room for miscommunication. So there are definitely people that only text like grocery list, or hey, can you pick up so and so. They won't text like serious conversations, because it's just like the room for miscommunication is so huge via the written form, or even phone calls. Like just like serious conversations in person may be the best one, and having those skills to be like, what do you mean by that, why do you think that, like so therapy, like we're just like, we make those questions like and normalize that it's okay to be like, what does that mean to you, you know? I actually don't usually say, how does that make you feel? Which like I had one client feel like, the other therapist, I would just say something and all they would respond is, how does that make you feel? And they're like, you don't do that. It's like, no, should I? I don't know. Every therapist is different. So number 5, language for miscommunication. New words, meanings, and acronyms are frequently created and changing. 6, there are always people who exaggerate and or lie, or so sometimes it may be wise to watch someone's actions and get second opinion before believing someone. Some examples, I think I saw this. Don't patronize him could mean don't make fun of him, or don't buy from him. Like don't patronize that store, like don't buy from them. Or it could be like they're making fun of somebody. So like words like that can be mixed up. Bi-weekly can mean both twice a week and twice a month. So that's also confusing. One word can have multiple different, even contradictory definitions. So those are just a few. But somebody said, oh, the meeting's bi-weekly, bi-monthly. I was like, you mean twice a month or every other month? You know? And they're like, every other month. And I was like, well, when you Google it, it could mean either. And they're like, no, it doesn't. And I'm like, and then also like, when I was, you know, older, and we said your niche market, like what you specialize in, and now it's like niche. And if you say niche, they're like, what? You know, like the word anami is also anime, and you know, so some words I'm like, there's different pronunciations, and I'm like, ah. So I was like, what's a niche? You know, and they're like, oh, it's like, you mean niche? And they're like, what are you talking about? Maybe that's like Baltimore from Carroll County, I don't know. Signs of crappy communication. Cahill Gibran, 1883 to 1931. Between what is said and not meant, and what is meant and not said, most of love is lost. So communication can just, you can miss so much. So I have like this image of like arrows, plus, minus, and this, and so what you bring, so your faith, family, values, love language, conscious, unconscious, crap, defense mechanisms, distortions, what I bring, the other person's stuff, between what you say and what you do, when you try to say something nice but interpret it negatively in a negative response, it's like a crappy cycle. So the long-term effect can affect faith, family, values, conscious, all those things. So like based on who you are, how you interpret responses can be totally different. It could be negative or positive. So like my kid's Grammy would come over, and like years ago when she was like, you know, my daughter's 10, so like she'll come over and like help sometimes, and like she would do dishes and clean up, and I was just so grateful, right? And then I'm talking to some other mom, and she like saw it as a negative, like her mother-in-law would come over and clean up, and she's like, my house just isn't clean enough. And I was like, to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love it when people help. I'm like, you know, especially when the kids were really little, like, and had to be like supervised, like you clean one room and the other room's messier, like that phase of life. Like, I was like, help all you want, you know, anyone else who wants to help, you know, like, and other people took it as a negative. So like, I'm like, oh man, like, I never thought she thought I wasn't good enough. I thought she was just like wanting to help, and I think that's, you know, obviously what she wanted, but, or I hope so. Maybe, I don't know. There's this, when I was in grad school, I had an amazing Paradigms of Clinical Social Work teacher, and she said, when you're walking down the hall, she used this as an example to just kind of get that we interpret reality differently. So you're walking down the hall at school and you wave to somebody, and they don't know, the person doesn't wave back and just passes. Why is that? So you could pause if you're in a room with like if this is a class or something, to get like responses. But there's the first person that responded dropped the class. She said, well, obviously they don't like you. Maybe they're talking about you. And I was like, maybe they didn't see you. Maybe they thought you were waving to somebody behind you. And, you know, like, I didn't think it was like an issue. Like, I wasn't like I go on my head. I probably miss waves sometimes. I don't, you know. So like, you know, just that interpretation of somebody not responding to you. Somebody could see that and be like, now they have this beef with that person. And somebody could see that and be like, hey, you all right? You didn't even notice I was waving at you. Like, everything okay? Like, you know, so it's so like how we view the world so is interpretive, because it could be the same situation and it could be seen. Somebody else was, you know, there was like every student in the like class could have a different response to one example, right? So then I have crappy miscommunication on page 113. So people have, Dr. Gary Chapman, born 1938, came up with the 5 love languages. There's a quiz at number5lovelanguages.com. People have 5 love languages he came up with. If you try to show love in the wrong language, your loved one may not feel loved, which is crappy. So we have words of affirmation, physical touch, gifts, acts of service, quality time. When people you love don't feel loved by you, it's crappy. So learning about love languages is not crappy. Learning about yourself and your loved one can help prevent miscommunication. And I can actually do dishes and just go on a tangent with this one. So let's say your loved one likes acts of service and assumes you like acts of service. So they're cleaning, we'll say it's a guy fixing your car, they're like cleaning the house, they're doing this and that. And you're like, I just want to watch a movie and like hold your hand. And you're like not feeling it, right? And they're like, what do you mean I don't love you? I'm like, I do everything for you. And they're like, but you never spend time with me. And they're like, but I spend time helping you. And it's just this whole, so this guy's like, so he was born 1938 and he's been doing like therapy a lot longer than I've been alive. So he uses examples, but that's like one. Another one would be like, some people are like gift givers, right? They like to give thoughtful gifts. They like to plan things out. Actually, had this talk with my stepdaughters. We're not gift givers. I get like a gift every couple of years from my partner, and I'm like, yay! Like, no, actually, I'm not yay. My first response is, why did you get me something? I can buy what I want. But then I'm like, oh, that was thoughtful. It takes me like my reaction is negative. My choosing the response positive. But like, I can list like the 3 or 4 things I've gotten in the last 2 decades, and I'm like totally happy with that, because I'm like, I like sitting with you. I like long hugs when I see you. Like, I like, you know, just that daily, like, everything. If I can't do things, he picks it up. He never makes me feel bad that the house isn't clean. Like, you know, I'm like, I like doing some stuff. But other people, it's like gifts is like their love language. So like, let's say his was gifts and mine wasn't, like, that's a disconnect. Yeah, but like, I think his with blended families, like her, my bonus daughter, she's like, her mom's side is very like thoughtful gifts, and I'm like, no, we're not. We're like, if you just want to spend time with us, we love that. Like, we're like quality time 100%, and she spends quality time with her mom. Like, no, there's just like, they're just really like, it's like a thing. So there's no judgment, and like everyone's love language is not like, ooh, that one's better than the other one. Like words of affirmations kind of like, if you're like somewhat of a trigger, like if a guy's like, oh, you look so pretty, like I'm over it now because I'm older, but like I had a very short relationship in my early teens, and he was like, you need to brush your hair, and he's like, you're so pretty, you know, and it was very like superficial, and I was like, I don't want to be called pretty. I'm smart, I'm talented, I'm nice, like I don't want to be called pretty, like I'm not just pretty. He told me to brush my hair. I was like, what the, you know. So then I was like, I don't want to just be arm candy, that's not me. So it was like actually like a trigger for a while. Like I'm over it now because I'm like beautifully graying and wrinkled up, and you know, but for a few years it was like a negative. And I dated a guy that was really and this is all like, maybe I'm sharing too much, but like smooth talker, like really built you up. His words of affirmation, wrote you letters, all this, but then he ended up being manipulative. So I'm like, I just like simple, to the point, don't build me up, don't like give me too many compliments, like, you know. So different people's past impacts them. So when you do therapy, it's also like unraveling that, right? Because you're like, why is she mad when I give her a compliment? Because maybe she dated an a-hole before you that like gave compliments as a way to manipulate. So you just never know. Love language is just such a neat thing, and I'm very pro. Like when I see couples, I like to do it. The quiz, it's like this or this, and you can do it together in a session where it's like, would you prefer spending quality time or getting help around the house? Like would you prefer like cuddling watching a movie or help cleaning the house or something? So you get to choose, and it's, when you do it together, it's like this whole conversation of like, really, you prefer that over this? And it's just these aha moments. As a therapist, the aha moments are like, yes. Like those are like the most rewarding when clients like have breakthroughs on different things. Yeah. So then I did in the beginning a whole, we're on page 114, a whole thing. Do I have to dry? I think I can stack them up. Whole thing on the Myers-Briggs. So there's 16 different personality types. And this is by Isabel Myers and Catherine Briggs. So it's created by Isabel Briggs Myers, born Isabel 1897 and 1980, and her mother, Catherine Briggs, born 1875 to 1968. So the Myers-Briggs came out in 1956 by two women, which is kind of cool. And they came up with the 16 different personalities. So there's a grid. So there's introversion versus extroversion, sensing versus intuition, thinking versus feeling, judging versus perceiving. It is used in marital counseling, executive training, and educational trainings for student government associations is where I was introduced to it. Was a USGA, like, in grad school, they did it. I think I knew of it before, but I never really, like, did it in a group. It's really fun in a group setting. I definitely think businesses should do it with coworkers and things like that if they have to work as a team. It's a great team building one. So that's the Myers-Briggs. Understanding their different personalities can help in communication, finding each other's strengths, and improve relationships. So before I started reading the book, I did go off on a tangent on the Myers-Briggs experience, but USGA experience, and you know, their strengths and talents and everything, and yeah, all the different schools. It was like, you know, an upper, like be above college, so it was like grad school, all that. So I mean, bright minds. And so it's not like, oh, one Myers-Briggs smarter or better than the other, but like working as a team and understanding how our minds are a little bit different and personalities are a little bit different can really be helpful. And yeah, because I think I'm very pro diversity, like with like different skill sets and just diversity in general. But like, I think sometimes people think diversity and they see something outward, but it can be totally inward on just the way you think is different. So, like if you're an intuitive person, it's great to have somebody that's like really sensing and practical on your team, being like, I believe in what you're doing, let me help you get there. And then we have ways to prevent. So Myers-Briggs is kind of in the miscommunication because some people, they just don't understand. And if you ever Google engineers and soft skills and relationships, like some minds are really like great at being practical, but like don't have necessarily, like, it's just nice to research different personalities and brain structures. And there's always exceptions to every single stereotype and rule and everything too. So there's probably some engineers that are the most compassionate, thoughtful, empathetic people. But like just knowing there's differences can help too. Because sometimes you're like, I can't get my point across. I can't, like, they can't understand me. I'm like, maybe they can't. Like, maybe their insight isn't there. So, like, being able to accept that you can still have relationships with people that don't get you is just fine. Because, like, who really, the Gottman's the relationship guru, and he had, there's never a time two minds are totally synchronous. Like, we're never going to totally, like, in this physical body. I don't know the next realm or whatnot, but we're never going to totally, truly understand each other. So asking questions helps, but you're still not going to totally get it. Without asking questions, you're just at a loss. So ways to prevent crappy miscommunication. Roy Bennett, born 1931, died 2014, said, listen with curiosity, speak with honesty, act with integrity. The greatest problem with miscommunication is we don't listen to understand. We listen to reply. When we listen with curiosity, we don't listen with the intent to reply. We listen for what's behind the words. And that goes into the new active listening. Again, nothing is new as under the sun. So this is like a brand new thing, right, in the last couple of years. I'm like, he said it probably like 20, 30 years ago. I don't know when he said this quote, but listening not to respond, but to understand is a totally different way to listen. Because there's a listening quiz I did in teller training. I still have the Word document, and it's like listening and communicating, like two different quizzes. And it's interesting when you take it because it's just this aha moment of like, wait, I do listen to like respond, and like, oh, maybe I should listen to like hear the person and not have thoughts of like how to respond to this. Yeah, so it's fun when you've had different careers and different trainings, but because you just pick up different things, and I keep it all. So Virginia Satir, born 1916, died 1988. I believe the greatest gift I can conceive of having from anyone is to be seen by them, heard by them, to be understood and touched by them. The greatest gift I can give is to see, hear, understand, and to touch another person. With this is done, I feel contact has been made. Rachel Ray, born 1968. Be real. Make connections with people. Look them in the eye. Tell them how you feel. Don't be afraid to say what you mean. When you let go of the stuff you hold inside, you'll be amazed at what comes back to you. So trying to listen, to understand what the person's saying, and even have follow-up questions if you're like, I don't think I grasped it. Active listening, they have this one thing of like even paraphrasing what you heard. So if you're having like a serious conversation where it really matters, being able to bring those questions to make sure you did comprehend what was said. Did you mean this by that? Like what I hear you saying is blah blah blah. Like, you know, being able to be like, okay, so this is where you're coming from. Okay, and then responding is huge, because often we respond, our initial reaction is like this. Most people are generally defensive, or it's like, you know, so it's like but choosing to respond based on what's said and what's heard is like such a life skill. I had one client, you can do couples therapy with an individual, like in terms of like helping an individual improve their relationship. It doesn't have to be two. But one client did share, I say the third thing that comes to mind. My first one's like not accurate. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to be helpful. It's going to cause a spiral. My second one's okay, but my third one's really good. And I'm like, that's kind of like the key. Like, say the third, like, you know, choosing to respond's huge. More preventing crappy communication. One, yeah, I think I just want to stop at this one, because then I have crop fulfilling prophecy on 1/6/16. So I don't know if I can keep, kind of high on dishes, but I can at least wash them all. Okay. Preventing crappy communication on page 116. And you can Google assertive communication. I have that on the bottom of a box of words to Google. 1. Think before you speak. Know what you want as an outcome. Consider the audience. Use appropriate language. Consider unintended consequences. to the best of your ability. 2, speak clearly, be kind, make eye contact. Unless in a culture where inappropriate. Not everywhere is eye contact appropriate, especially when you mix genders up. Like some places, yeah. So know your culture. Listen for feedback, questions, and that the other understood you. So sometimes when somebody's just like, in general, I'm like, if I'm like reading an article or like in the middle of something, you have to like be like, hey Judy, like, you know, therapy, I'm like in tune, like I'm like 100% there. But like when I'm like running around doing things, like I don't hear you talking to me until you like get my attention, because like other people talk on the phone. I'm gonna, you know, so I'm like, are you talking to me? Are you talking to the kids? Like I thought you were on the phone the whole time, like, you know. So then I'm like, wait, you were talking to me, you know. So it's like, make sure you get the person's attention. Number 4. When you are uncertain of the meaning someone said, ask them to clarify to ensure you understood their true intentions. Number 5, if someone says something rude, triggering, stop and think before responding. At times, better to not respond immediately. It usually takes 2 to argue. Not responding can prevent an argument. These steps are especially true when dealing with children. Children may not yet understand sarcasm. Calling a child stupid or bad can cause a downward spiral. Think before you speak to kids. That's the fulfilling prophecy part. Yeah, don't call kids negative names in general, is what I think. But then I heard the story of like a grandpa that was really negative and like just called everybody names, but of people he loved. And this kid wrote this note when they were little of like, oh, my grandpa's is only me when he likes you. Like, so sometimes I'm like, sarcasm may or may not work, but in general, like, think before you speak. And if you call somebody bad, they're most likely gonna start acting bad. If you call them stupid, they might stop trying in school. Like, that's a fulfilling prophecy. So like, I have like a couple pictures and dialogue boxes, but I feel crappy about myself and stupid, crappy talker. So that sometimes when people say things, that's what they're feeling. So they say, you were stupid, she says to her son. The son says, I'm being told I'm stupid, so I must be stupid. Why should I try? So they both feel crappy and stupid. If he believes he is stupid, he most likely will think there is no point in trying and not reach his potential. If you want someone to be bad, call them bad. If you want someone to be good, call them good. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy is what you can Google. And it's really interesting. And it's like, I love it when people break negative self-fulfilling, like negative stereotypes. Yeah, Billy Live from Find Your Purpose. Like, he's a really cool person because like, he's broken like stereotypes. Like he had even, I think he said he had, you have to ask him, but I think he had teachers that did not believe in him. And he made it. And he's like helping other people and he's like breaking stereotypes left and right? So like, I think it's really important to emphasize people that break stereotypes, because I think that helps kids that may have had emotional abuse, like, live better, more meaningful lives, right? Because they can see other people that were told negative things succeed. So like, oh, yeah, absolutely adults can be wrong. And if somebody calls you stupid, it doesn't make you stupid. Like, kids don't know everything. Like, they're learners, and some things are really hard. And if you generally say, you're such a good kid, like, you're so thoughtful, it increases somebody's ability to be thoughtful and good. So really just being, like, aware of your words, especially with kids, but even adults, it still matters. Like, we're still human, you know. Yeah, so if you build people up, it really, I think, helps people reach more potential. You don't want to build them up too much. Like, I'm still pro, hey, we're human. We didn't create the universe. You don't know everything, and there's always room to learn. Because I think sometimes we go into that, you're so smart, you did it, and then we think our thoughts are right. So when we fail, we think we're like, the world is over, and I'm like, normalizing our thoughts can be wrong. Failure is normal. Like, oh, there's always roadblocks. Like, it's just when and how big. Like, all that matters. Oh, and then I just have a page. It's like a little sign. Adults be nice to kids. Remember, crap fulfilling prophecy. Confused. It's a crappy crap happens philosophy. Look it up. Then, the crappy cycle. If you look it up, it's the attachment cycle. As a professional, like what we learned in school. But if stress, child misbehaving is handled positive, the attachment and healing process occurs. I think it was taught in Pride, like the foster parent training, parent resources for information development and education that I had to take. I think that's where I initially learned about it. But so I use it with the word crap because it's a crap happens philosophy book. But crap, adult feels discomfort and uses denial. Stressful situation, adult craps on kid, crap thrower, crap talker, emotional abuse. The child has a stressful situation. Child craps on another child, bullying, or takes it out on the dog. Like the adult feels insecure. So it's like all this, like the adult has issues. They respond negatively when a child acts like a child. Children are not perfect. There's a whole really cute video they have on self-regulation is not something you're born with. Your adults are co-regulators. So if a child's acting out, our job is to be peaceful and within limits. If a child's hurting another child, we're not supposed to, stop. There's like that. If a child's having a meltdown, it's like yelling at them is not gonna, how do you want to deal with this? Do you need a hug? Do you need time in? Do you want time alone? Okay, it's okay to have meltdowns, but we can't hurt anyone or destroy anything. Like, do you need, how are we going to do this? Do you need to go outside and, like, hit the ground with a stick? Do you need to go read? Do you want time alone? Like, it's, if a child acted out and you're like, stop that, rah, the child's just going to rah. And that's like, they're not going to learn those self-regulation soothing skills. So you being able to understand that attachment style and respond positively is so important. Because every time a child acts out, like in foster parent training, we're like, if a child says, I hate you, I wish I never met you, that's actually like the child starting to get scared that they're getting attached to you. So if you take that as like, well, I wish you never came here too, you're breaking that attachment, right? So a lot of the time that the kid's worst feel and that negative self-talk comes out when they're getting closer. So when they start pushing away, it's because they're getting closer. It's not because, maybe they do hate you, but often it's like, they're going through their own things, right? So, like, peaceful people, like, self-regulated people, happy people are generally, like, calm. And, like, people that don't have those self-regulation skills and that inner peace, that ability to stay in their prefrontal cortex and not have that amygdala, fight, flight, freeze, fawn response going, like, there's a lot, like, therapy serves a purpose, yoga, mindfulness, there's so many things that help keep your, like, brain functioning and calm and recognizing when it's not calm, like ways to like use coping skills, like so it's so Karen Young from www.heysigmund.com said brains will first ask, am I safe? Then, am I loved? Only when the answer to these is yes will it then be ready to ask, what can I learn? Mistreatment, trauma, the crappy negative cycle affects learning too. So a lot of people get mad at kids if they can't focus. We don't know their home life. We don't know if they have ADHD. We don't know what's going on. But getting mad at kids that can't focus and behave in class, generally it's not like some malicious choice on the kid's part, or and when you like start learning, I was really surprised like when I pick my kids up after school that they didn't have like, I was expecting, like, they go to school, they go to after school, and then I'm going to deal with these huge, huge meltdowns. And when they weren't, like, huge, I was like, oh, this isn't bad. Because they're on, right? They're trying to behave and be good all day, that they just, like, their brains are done, right? So when it's not, like, a huge meltdown, I'm like, and often it isn't. Like, they're, you just expect it. So expectations and reality is, like, where so much mental health issues come. When your expectations are here, reality's here, that dissonance, like, is where like a lot of like things happen. So if we lower our expectations for some things, but like in reality is better, you're like, this was really awesome, right? So the crappy generational effect is when the child becomes a parent and does the same crappy thing. The crappy cycle, the crappy ripple effect continues. The next page is the crappy ripple effect, crap contagion effect. I don't have a box to Google, but the box is ripple effect. If you Google the ripple effect, and I have like a little You could probably see it. So I have like these two. Like, I know it's backwards, but it's okay. I can hopefully fix it. So A person has a crappy situation and does not deal with it, keeps it inside, and is crappy to one. And that person and B, and then they do the same, and it just kind of, you know, so when you're negative and people aren't, I don't think anyone's perfect in this lifetime, so we're all kind of affected by those mirror neurons and life experiences, and, you know, so if you're around really positive, uplifting people, it's a lot easier to be really positive and uplifting. When you have, like, negative people, or, you know, it's just kind of a, oh, Mother Teresa said, I cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples. So every time we're positive, it can create that positive ripple type of thing. I don't know what the next life brings, but it would be neat to see, like, the positive stuff you do, how it ripples. Yeah, I have a couple of people watching, and they both have been so positive in my life that I'm like, I'm on a sidetrack, but, like, you know, the ripple's, like, huge. Danny Stevens said, pain travels through family lines until someone is ready to heal it themselves. Going through the agony of healing, you no longer pass the poison chalice onto the generations that follow. It is incredibly important and sacred work. And I deal with, as a therapist, I do help a lot of parents just, like, work on themselves so they can parent better and not take on their past trauma or negative things. So they're like cycle breakers, which is the next page. Cycle breakers are not crappy. Good ripples too is not crappy. Like, that's a good thing. Polina Serafina said, go easy on yourself. You're clearing thousands of years of outdated conditioning. So that, you know, that self-compassion matters. There's a quote attributed to Buddha, thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared. And I think Dante Alighieri. So the Buddha quote, I don't know if it's accurate. It's like 5th century BC to 4th century BC. Dante Alighieri from 1265 to 1321. A mighty flame followeth a tiny spark. I think I am. I just have to rinse. Nate Pozawat. Wait. These are kind of cute. We use these for our gecko's food. It's like a little Hatchimal type of, yeah. They don't go over their space. So Nate Pozawat said, never underestimate a cycle breaker. Not only did they experience years of generational trauma, but they stood in the face of trauma and fought to say, this ends with me. This is brave. This is powerful. This comes at a significant cost. Never underestimate a cycle breaker. And there's, like, if you Google that, there's, like, so many quotes on my generation and younger being cycle breakers, which is really cool. Laurie Deshawn said, be the person who breaks the cycle. If you were judged, choose understanding. If you were rejected, choose acceptance. If you were shamed, choose compassion. Be the person you needed when you were hurting, not the person who hurt you. Vow to be better than what broke you. To heal instead of becoming bitter so you can attract from the heart, not your pain. And there's a weird dynamic on people that have had trauma, finding, like, people that create trauma and choose, like, unhealthy relationships. So that healing really matters to have a healthy relationship. An unknown quote, we must continually outgrow who we have been in order to continually develop into who we were created to become. Be proud of how you chose not to repeat that cycle again. Anne Frank lived 1929 to 1945. What is done cannot be undone, but one can prevent it to happening again. And she's wrote during the Holocaust time. So what is done cannot be undone, but one can prevent it from happening again. So, like, if things did happen, it's not your fault. You can't undo it. But you can heal from it, grow from it, not repeat it. Yeah. So that's page 121. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am now out of space. Oh, this is such a good church. We love this Westminster Baptist Church. They do so much outreach to the community. Like they're there like every week. Yeah. Okay. There's some churches that I'm like, oh, there's such, I don't know. When people have a faith and they follow it and like do outreaches and do stuff and really there, it always like warms my heart because you hear and see so many hypocrites and I'm like, oh, faith, good people in the faith community or whatever community you're in. It's nice. All right. Well, have a great day. Thanks for joining me while I wash dishes and read from the Crap Happens philosophy book.